Yeah, morning, Trace. Obviously, got the small affair of the US election to deal with today, and we are all risk managers. Be aware that we could see some pretty violent intraday moves as people react to the various key swing states that come out, really from around 11 a.m. going into the Asian afternoon into European trade. We are going to be dealing with a headline-driven market. Algos are going to be interpreting and being able to react and execute positions far quicker than you or I. We could see those really sort of scatty moves playing through, and there's been a huge amount of optionality being put into the market. People have been huge buyers of implied volatility to protect against movement. And I think people are looking at the optimal time to start selling volatility. And of course, when we start seeing that, that vol crush could lead to some big reversals playing through. So it is, if you do decide to swim in these waters, be aware of the market conditions, be aware of the risks, and how you could see markets moving on those headlines playing through. So I think if we have a look at what we've been seeing in US markets overnight and how that spills over into Asia today, it's been about positioning 101, which makes a lot of sense, right? Obviously, you've got this big event playing through where the risk could be two-way. Got to remove your political bias, but the risk for me are two-way. And if you think there's going to be some movement playing through and, it's a risk that you can't control, people are looking to manage those positions. They're looking to reduce some of that length. And certainly we've seen that in the FX market. The market has been pretty long of US dollars. We've seen some of that length taken down. We've certainly seen that today in dollar SAFA. Some of the LATAM currencies have had a good gain as some of that short interest comes out the market. We've seen that in Aussie dollar, which had a decent pop, partly to do with the RBA. But I think people are just saying, the risks are here that, if we do see Harris getting up and, the US dollar comes under pressure, then, of course, we don't want to be too short of too long of US dollars in that position. So, we've seen certainly some management of positioning in the FX market, some of that dollar length being taken down. In the Treasury market, we can see a bit of a curve flattening playing through. Front-end yields have moved up a little bit, and we've seen a bit of a bid coming through in sort of the 10-year, very small, but certainly we've seen a bit of a flattening playing through 210s. Down about 4 basis points or so at the moment. And equity markets are going into this pretty hot. We've seen the S&P closing pretty close to the highs. 83% of companies are higher. Discretionary working well. Tech's been nice. We've got a nice gain in Mag 7. Nvidia, has overtaken Microsoft now, and Apple is the biggest market cap company in the world. So certainly we've seen some good flows in Nvidia. But I think the market is pretty well hedged. If we have a look at the VIX, it's trading on a 11-volt premium to what we've been seeing in 20-day realized. We can see S&P options at the money for which expire in the session ahead. We can see the implied vol at 29%, which is pretty punchy. In the Russell 2000, you can see that the implied vol for at the money expiries for the session ahead 45%. So you can see that equity risk premium being priced in. And again, once the market sees that optimal time to start selling volatility, and it might not be today, I think that vol crush could lead to some big reversals playing through. Again, when we marry that with sort of poorer liquidity, that could be quite interesting in itself. But as we go through the day then, what are we looking at? We are looking at this situation where the polls, the embargo for the networks to call various state rolls off at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 5 p.m. local time. But these networks cannot call a state until the polls close in those respective states. So what are we looking at? Well, first of all, I think if Harris is to win this, it's widely considered that she's going to have to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania to get this done. Trump needs to win North Carolina and Pennsylvania, and I think the other states there carry him over. But that's probably his best route. And I think if you take the idea that the Democrats always win certain states and the Republicans always win certain states, we've got to believe that Kamala Harris is probably going into this with a base case of 226 electoral college seats to start, and she'll need to get 44 from the swing states to get the election. And Donald Trump will need to probably starts with 219 electoral college seats and probably needs therefore to get 51 to get the 270 electoral college seats to get them as president. So there's obviously 7 key swing states that we are watching through the trading session. I think Georgia's going to kick us off where their polls close coming through at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 7 p.m. local time. Whether we get a result straight away or a network calling that one is obviously unclear. But certainly I think the market's really looking at North Carolina as the first bellwether to look at. And the polls there close at 11:30. They typically come out earlier than others because they do count their ballots and their mail-in votes far sooner than say Pennsylvania, for example. So I think what we see from North Carolina could set off a trend. If we do see Kamala Harris winning that one, if we were to see that, and it's not expected, Trump is probably just ahead in the polls. The betting markets certainly see Trump winning North Carolina. But if Kamala Harris was to win that, and we see that being called after 11:30 or so, you could see the dollar under a bit of pressure playing through as obviously people ramp up Harris's chance. But Trump is largely expected to win. That's not my view. That's kind of what we've been seeing. So I think that's an interesting one. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at Michigan as well. Harris is expected to pick up Michigan. But, that comes out half an hour later as well. So we'll have to see what happens in that situation. But it's Pennsylvania, which I think everyone's focused on at the moment. The polls there effectively come out at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Whether we get a result straight away is obviously unclear. They don't start counting their mail-in voting votes till today, till the election day. So it may be delayed. Obviously, we've seen history show that Pennsylvania can be slower. But the election may result in Pennsylvania be the key swing state. They've got 19 electoral college seats for the potential president to pick up. So obviously, that is going to be the big one. So obviously, everyone focused on that. But it's not just about this. As the day goes on, if we get these key swing states, if it does look like Trump's going to win the election, then it really brings in the House vote into the situation. And given the way that California and New York don't count their votes, are a bit slower, we may not get a result on the House until longer term. Now, of course, if Harris was to win, the House doesn't really matter too much because it's widely expected that the Democrats won't get the Senate. But certainly, if we were to see Trump looking like he's going to get the presidency over time, obviously that House vote will become a really big deal for the US dollar and for equity markets and various factors as well. So a big day ahead. Think about liquidity, think about how trades are, trading environment, and look out for those key swing states. Good.